Save the Semantics episode 293. It is February 11th, 2025. My name is Myro. This is the podcast where I ramble on for a bit about some shit. Recording this on a Tuesday evening / afternoon /evening. Things have been kind of picking up for me for my work schedule and all that. So It's been good though. It's been all right. I think I've been handling things decently for the most part. I think for these sort of past couple of weeks, I've definitely hit a bit of a kind of like a gaming hiatus of sorts. I still put in my daily runs here and there of Slay the Spire or Risk of Rain, but outside of that I haven't really tapped into much gaming recently. Have sort of put I've talked about this, but I've put Final Fantasy 12 to the side a little bit. Some other games are still sort of on the shelf. So yeah, there hasn't been this kind of there hasn't really been this desire to really start up anything new. Outside of that, again, 12 hasn't really drawn me back in, and nothing else has really caught my attention. Honestly, I'm willing to just kind of be patient until X comes out. I just put my pre-order for it this weekend, so I'm excited to go pick it up next month when it comes out. That's going to be fun. That's something to kind of look forward to for me. But yeah, it's been quiet on that front. There's been it's sort of we've reached sort of this point sort of in within the gaming news cycle, because we've had the Switch 2 announcement made about, it's been a few weeks now. Obviously there's been some more things that have come out as of that point. I think it's just more so confirmations of what was already expected. I think the one component was the mouse capability. Apparently there was like a blueprint or something that was either leaked or I think Nintendo themselves put out, that essentially sort of confirmed that this was the way in which the mouse gaming was gonna work, similar to like a computer mouse and that kind of thing. So there's they show different variations of how you could use the Joy-Cons for different games and that kind of thing. Obviously not not gameplay itself. This is just like a blueprint of the the functions and everything like that. But so really simple in that sense, but I think it'll be interesting. I don't know. I'm trying to imagine games in which I would use those things, right? Because there aren't really a ton of games that I'm not. I've never been someone who's mouse and keyboard. I've never been like a PC or computer gamer by any means. The controls for that, it just doesn't really work to my senses. I much prefer to have just a actual controller, right? But it might be interesting. I'm trying to think what games would sort of work in that setting. Maybe something like a Civilization, or even a Baldur's Gate, right? Where it is easier for you to kind of scroll or to sort of move the mouse around to select actions and that kind of thing. Assuming that those we do know the newest Civ is going to be coming out to Switch, the just original Switch. But I'm assuming that there's going to be somewhat of a push to try to get Baldur's Gate 3 to Switch 2. If that does happen, I guess you could argue that there could be a way in which that to the mouse setting could be used effectively. You know what I mean? I just don't know if I personally would do something like that, because really I tend to play games handheld most of the time anyway. So it's not, I don't know, it'll be kind of weird to set up the set up so that the screen is held up by the the jack, not the jack, but held up by like the kickstand, and then using like the two Joy Cons to play like that. I don't know, man. I might test it out just for the heck of it to see how that works, and if I like it at all. But I just don't really see myself using it in a lot of instances. You know what I mean? I think the expectation is that this will be reserved primarily for kind of party games, first party Nintendo party games, where they're just like click away at the balloons or something like that. I don't know exactly, but it's I don't know, it's interesting to think about. I don't know how much excitement that's going to conjure up amongst the public and other people, but it's something, you know what I mean? It's something that's like it's right now, that's really the main thing outside of the size and the magnetic Joy Cons and that kind of thing. Outside of that, that's really the biggest thing that's kind of separating the original Switch from Switch 2. So it's something to keep an eye out. I don't know how that's really how well that's gonna work, but it'll be different. It's a little quirk. It's a little Nintendo quirk. So we'll see how that goes. Somewhat recently, I'm a little delayed in talking about it. Nintendo also put out like a time slot for when their Nintendo 2 like Direct is gonna come out. The date still remains the same, for it to be in early or April 2nd. But it's going to be 6 a.m. for me, 6 a.m. Pacific Coast on the West Coast. So getting up early for that. I don't mind too much. I can do that. Just a quick, I don't know how long of a presentation it's going to be. Probably like less than an hour. I don't know. I don't know if they specified how long. But it's not going to be like that long. So I'll get up a little early to check it out. It'll be fun. It's fun to get up early to see these sort of things. I remember getting up early to see the trailers come out for Tears of the Kingdom, and that was fun to do. Even though it's like a 3-minute trailer and you could watch it at any time. I think being there for like a premiere can be exciting. So I'll definitely be checking that out as it premieres. I don't mind getting up a little earlier for that kind of thing. Other than that, it's been, there's been some rustlings in terms of, what the expectation is for releases. There still hasn't been any confirmation or any really revealed rumors of a February Direct. Hopefully that still is the case. So it would be nice to have something to kind of look forward to this month. But if it doesn't happen, there's bigger fish to fry. But there's kind of this like back and forth between some people that are saying that there might not be a Direct at all, and some people that are like pretty confident that there is a Direct. But I guess that's something to keep an eye out on, because I do think that there are still ways to sort of get some anticipation, some interest in the remaining Switch titles that might come out this year, and I mean for myself included, right? That's really sort of that's something that I'm still interested in, right? I think the Trails in the Sky remake looks awesome. That's coming out pretty soon too, right? So maybe that's something that they can kind of highlight if they happen to do a Direct. The Suikoden remasters, those are coming out this year as well, so that's something they could definitely talk about. That's right up my alley in terms of games that I'm interested in. The Fire Emblem remake that's been rumored forever, that would be obviously awesome to see. We haven't heard anything about that, but there's been a lot of speculation and a lot of just rumors just that's been popping up about that for like the last couple of years. And then some other small, obviously I think Xenoblade X, they'll probably talk about a little bit as well. I mean, I have already pre-ordered it, so that's kind of slotted in. But it's like there are games that they could kind of prop up and give a little bit more to. even before, Switch 2 release. So I feel that it might be beneficial in some instances. Like, it's not going to take away the attention from Switch 2. I don't think that that would really line up. So I think I mean, I just would like to see it too, just to get a little bit more detail on the things that are coming out. Maybe like a reminder that those games are coming out, right? Because like, honestly, I hadn't even really thought about, the games that are coming out this year. So I think it's just like, oh yeah, there's more games it's just more games to add on the list that I may not get to anytime soon, but I still would like to play. And I will definitely add on the list of games, on my library, my backlog, whatever that might be. So yeah, hopefully there is some kind of announcement, because I think that would be nice to see. Um, let's talk about Jimmy's first two games as a warrior. So he played, first game was in Chicago. Um, it was a crazy ass game. It was like, they were down by quite a lot, and I was feeling like, dude, this is a bad look, man. This doesn't look good. They were down like 20 plus at some point, I think in like the second quarter, third quarter, and I was like, dude, I don't know, man. That's tough, man. That's tough, but Steph had some of his magic in the third, and then they went on this like crazy run, just stringing off like a 20 something to 4 run, and then they eventually won the game by like 20 plus. So it was like a 40-point turnaround essentially, which is nuts. But Steph did his thing in the third. Jimmy kind of closed it out in a way in the fourth. And it was great to see, man. His play is very different from, just kind of the offense that I think the Warriors are used to, which is, motion offense and all that stuff. His is much more deliberately, if like the mid range is sort of available to him, he'll take it. But I think the biggest thing is the free throws and him getting to the line and just putting pressure, on the defense that way. There was like a statistic, I think that's probably going to get quoted quite a bit, that he had like 28 free throw attempts in his first 2 games, which is like insane. That's like more than what some players have had the whole season, right, on the Warriors, which is nuts, right? So you like to see that. It's that the play, obviously, it's funny because it's like you dislike foul merchants and how they operate, and when they're on the opposing team, but when you have them, you're like, all right, you know what, free points. You're putting fouls on the other team's players, so it's like, okay, it works. It also slows down the game. It sort of like, if a team is going on a run or something, that's like immediately just puts a halt to it, just slows the pace down, like they lose momentum. It's like a huge momentum killer, right? To have, fouls picked up, and it's not the prettiest, it's not the most aesthetically pleasing, but look, man, we're trying to win. And we've won 2 games so far. We are winning. And I'm feeling it's so funny, man. Just like the turnaround in opinion after certain performances. Like I was so like, I was distraught is a little aggressive. It's a bit too a bit too strong of a word, but I was like down. I was not feeling good about how they were looking at, after like the first half and beginning of like the third quarter. I was like, dude, man, I don't know. I guess this is it. I was just kind of throwing my hands up, but they turned it around. The vibes are sort of, they're getting there, right? Like it's hard to it's hard for a team to fully click with a huge piece such as Jimmy, but they've looked good, man. I also watched some of the Bucks game yesterday, and they were clicking, man. Shout out to Quentin Post. He's been awesome. He's the stretch 5. He is the stretch 5. I might have already exclaimed that, but he's the five, man, and he's had some nice moments defensively as well. Just being a side, just being a body down in the post, no pun intended. But he's been good, man. I've really liked how he's played. It's like it might honestly like I know it's been a very short period of time, but I think we sort of lucked out in not trying to trade for Vucevic. You know what I mean? It sort of seems like it's working out in our favor, and I'm happy to kind of see the progression there. He's been sort of inserted as a part of the starting rotation in the Bulls game. He came off the bench last game against the Bucks, I think, and it seems to have really worked out really well. And I'm happy to see kind of what it's going to look like. It's only been 2 games, and there's been just a clear sense of impact that Jimmy's had on the team. And I am more than just kind of looking forward to kind of seeing, what else we can conjure up. Are we going to get even, can we go on a run here? Can we get to, can we get into playoff seeding versus play-in seeding? We're like neck and neck with the Kings right now. And we're only like a half game behind the Mavericks, who are sort of, unfortunately falling apart, continuing to fall apart. Obviously not just outside of the Luka trade. Now they just have a bunch of injuries that just are kind of piling up. It's looking a little tough for them. So on the Warriors side of things, I think we can definitely make some momentum. And we could try to challenge for like a 6th seed. I think I feel a lot more confident about being, again, it's been 2 games. Maybe it's a little hyperbole, and maybe it's a little over, maybe I'm feeling a little overconfident in our ability. Cause look, man, we've had a whole season to show that we've been an incredibly average versus an under average, below average team. So it's like we have a whole sample size like that backs up that claim that we are not like a great team. But there's a little feeling of rejuvenation, and I'm hoping that hope kind of rides on, that we can make some sort of run to get us into a good position. Apparently our strength of schedule is like not too bad as well. I'm feeling pretty confident about playing against other teams like around us as well. I think that like outside of like the top, whoever's at the top of the West, even then it's like, I don't know, Houston, Memphis, like I feel decent about those chances. Nuggets are obviously going to be a tough cover. And then the Thunder it's I don't know, that's a whole nother level. But we did beat them. We did beat them twice this season. So, maybe they should feel a little concerned, even though it's, playoff versus regular season is a little different. And, and they do have Chet back as well. So that's probably going to be a huge difference maker on their side of things. But regardless of all that, look, man, I know 2 games is it's a really small batch to look at, but I've liked how we've played. I like the energy. It might be like a case of like new, how like a coach, how like the Kings fired their coach and they went on like a run. Maybe this is like a similar case where we bring in like a new star player and we sort of go on a run. But look, man, it might be the perfect time for that. There's only 30-ish games remaining. If we can just kind of ride that through and be at like a good place, like I'm feeling pretty good, man. I don't know. It might be. I'm feeling way more hopeful now than I have like ever in during the season. Even when we were at the top of the league, very earlier on in the season, there were still like it felt too similar in terms of performance from last year, and that very much lingered. And unfortunately, that kind of was the case, right? And it came back down to earth. But I'm feeling way more hopeful now because of the player capabilities that we do have with Jimmy and Steph. Like I'm feeling pretty good, man. This is like the most hopeful that I've been in the last couple of seasons. It's good to feel that way, man. It feels good that it's like, hey, we can kind of win on any given night. Well, I'm excited to kind of see how that sort of plays out. They're not playing tonight. It's going to be a bit of like a shorter week this week for the NBA because of the All-Star weekend that's coming up. I've been saying this for a while now. I have not been interested in All-Star Weekend for quite some time now. Like I've been pretty checked out. Like I do maybe I'll watch like maybe bits and pieces of the 3-point contest, but outside of that, it's either not for me or I've just lost interest. I just have no. I just don't have. There's no desire for me to watch that. It's just not. It's not interesting for me anymore. I'm just not there. So I don't know. There's not really anything. All-Star game. They're like changing the format. It's not really going to change my level of interest for it. Like even if they do make it somewhat competitive, it's like I don't know. I don't know. We'll see, man. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of a shorter week, so I think we either have like 1 or 2 games remaining on the schedule for the Warriors. Outside of that, I think it's like a pretty, sort of like a week off almost after the All-Star break. So no basketball for a little while, no actual basketball for a little while, which is a bit of a bummer, but it's all right. So I'll be, I guess that will give me time outside of work to do other stuff maybe. But yeah, it's we're in a good spot. Like things can change, maybe when I record this weekend, we might have lost the 2 games or however many games that we are playing this week. But, I'm choosing to remain optimistic. We're playing the Mavs tomorrow. That's what it is. That might be a decent game. That might be like a big game, because that actually does affect the standings. And even without like AD or whatever, they're still like they got players, man. They got some good players. So that's not gonna be an easy game. That's not gonna be an easy game. So I'll obviously talk about that and whatever game also happens, but I am choosing to remain optimistic. It might actually be the only game. I'm not sure. Do we have a back-to-back? I'm not checking the schedule right now. I'll check it I'll check it a little later. But yeah, just wanted to do just talk quickly, give a little quick update on my first impressions with Jimmy. Really like it so far, man. I'm excited. I'm rejuvenated as a fan as well. So things to really look forward to. If anything does come up this week in terms of the news, whatever. There is like a state of play for PlayStation that's happening tomorrow. I don't really, it's not something that I'm super invested in, but maybe I'll talk about that. Maybe I'll talk about if there's any games on there that catch my interest. The games that I will not be playing, but that I am also interested in, seeing is sort of the look for that. But yeah, if anything is there, and if anything else happens, maybe I'll talk about the All-Star weekend. Maybe I'll see if there's anything that's worth watching. I will talk about. So yeah, until then, I'll just leave it off at that.
All right, recording this on Saturday, February 15th. As you can probably tell, my voice is a little shot. I'm either recovering from, like, I am definitely in like a sick period right now. It hasn't been too bad. I've been very fortunate that I haven't gotten hit by like a more serious bug recently, because there's been a lot of like flus and other stuff going around. So I'm honestly in a pretty good spot. So it's really not too bad so far. It's like it's either like getting better or it might get worse. Obviously I don't want to put that out there, but you never know. But yeah, I've been trying to drink my tea and all that good stuff. I just went and picked up some more tea, so that should hopefully hold me over until this passes. But yeah, it's been an okay week. It's definitely been just being sort of sick and everything. I guess it's been a little shaky, but I've been doing all right outside of that. I'm recording this right before like kind of All-Star weekend. I guess, it technically started yesterday with the Rising Stars and celebrity games, which I don't think most people care about. But it's gonna kick off pretty soon for the Saturday events. 3-point contest, dunk contest, skills, all that stuff. So that's gonna be, I think I decided that I'm just gonna tune into like some events here and there. I think I'll like I said, I'll definitely watch 3-point contest because that's usually the most exciting and the most competitive out of all of them. So I will definitely be checking that out. But yeah, just probably going to be sporadically in and out. It might just be like a nice thing to kind of have in the background. So I'll probably just do that while I, maybe do some other stuff. But yeah, it'll be all right. It'll be kind of like a nice little thing for to enjoy over the weekend. I think that it is a much needed kind of break for a lot of teams, definitely. I don't know. I think this season in particular, I feel like I've been really up to date with the NBA. Like obviously there was like a period where I sort of fell off a little bit, but honestly, like throughout most of it, I've kept in touch with it, which is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of impressive on my part, because I feel in previous seasons I definitely sort of neglect watching like extended periods of the season, right? But this year I've been really I've kept in touch with the ups and downs of, especially the Warriors and everything. I have a good sense of kind of the ebbs and flows of the season, and when things have gone well and things have gone wrong, right? I think especially for the Warriors this year, it's been very much, they've been, outside of just their incredibly hot start, it has just been such a constant of staying relatively near 500, right? And as we kind of transition into the post All Stars part of the season, I'm this is gonna be a new kind of phase. This is definitely gonna be we got 30-ish games remaining. It's definitely gonna be kind of it feels like it's gonna be a sprint to the finish line. Especially considering where they are in the standings and the other teams that are kind of around them. I was a little disappointed with their loss to the Mavericks because that had some pretty that does have some play off / play in implications in terms of standings, right? Unfortunately, I think that I don't even remember what the season series is right now. It might be either tied or something. I'm not exactly sure, but that does sort of have some implications, and I think the next game after the break is going to be playing against the Kings, we are like in direct. I'm pretty sure we're like right, sort of neck and neck in the standings. So it might end up being like a 9-10 situation like last year. I don't know. I hope not. I hope that we might be able to try to avoid that if we can create some separation between us and the other teams, including like including the Mavericks, so I'm sort of hoping that they maybe fall off a little bit, right? I know they've been through. I know their fans have been through a lot of shit, but listen, man, I'm still cheering for us at the end of the day, and I think they've managed to keep afloat with players like Davis, and essentially their entire center rotation is out, which is pretty crazy. the expectation is that they would maybe fall off a little bit, but I don't know, man. Maybe they're just fighting and trying to prove a point and just sort of trying to stay afloat and kind of maybe being, maybe spoilers for some other teams in the Western Conference. We'll see. But the hope is that, maybe we can, sort of leapfrog them a little bit and get into the standings. So yeah, I think right now it's like the Wolves, the Mavericks, Kings, and the Warriors right now that are in playoff seeding. So it will be that's going to be interesting, man. Maybe the Clippers also kind of fall into the fray as well. There's a lot of teams that are sort of in that sort of area. There's not like a huge game break in between teams in the standings, kind of similar to last year. But yeah, we will see, man. We will see. It seems like that the Spurs and the Blazers are maybe they've had some limited success in the last couple of weeks, and they've sort of unfortunately for them, they have not been able to close the gap in between them and like the 10th seed. So unlikely for them. They're probably not going to be in play-in contention. Obviously, things can absolutely change, right? The Blazers went on like a 7-game win streak, and they've fallen off a little bit after playing a couple of tougher opponents. But you never know, man. With the luck of a draw, they might get like a decent schedule, and they might pick up some wins, and maybe they're right back in the conversation. But I don't know. It might be a little tough. It might be a little tough to envision that. But there's still a sizable number of games, right? Like season's absolutely not over. Like really, it's like a couple months remaining, right, more or less, leading into the playoffs. So it's gonna be quite the stretch, man. It's gonna be quite the dash to the finish line. I think there's gonna be a lot of conversations coming up, leading into kind of this next period of because it's gonna be a sort of a new it's a new stage of the season, and it's going to be really important for a lot of teams to try to get into seeding and try to create some separation as well if they are, higher seeds and everything. But definitely nothing is set in stone. Like outside of maybe Oklahoma City and Cleveland, like everything else is pretty much kind of up for grabs. But yeah, we will see. We'll see how that goes. I'm excited to kind of see how things shake up. I'm hoping that the Warriors can kind of pull off a nice run to get into maybe playoff positioning as opposed to play in, and just avoid that entirely. Because if we do, I like our chances against like outside of maybe Denver, like because that's going to be an impossible cover. Like outside of Denver, I would feel pretty good if I were the Warriors going up against, say, a Houston or a Memphis. You know what I mean? I think that there is going to be some favorability there, just in terms of experience and whatnot. And now that we do have Jimmy Butler, like that kind of gives the Warriors a bit of an added edge to them. So I think a lot of people, including myself, will feel a lot more comfortable being in that position versus maybe fighting through the play-in and going up against like Oklahoma City. Even though I think during the season, like the Warriors have won 2 games against Oklahoma City, so maybe that is like a nice kind of indication that maybe they can hang with them. But also I think, I don't know, I look at something like that, and I also look at, it's a very different situation, obviously, and very different teams and everything like that, but I look at, the Phoenix and the Timberwolves situation of last year, where the Suns did have, like, they won pretty handedly in the season against Minnesota, but then they got swept in the playoffs. So it's like, it's a completely different field, man. Like maybe Oklahoma City really brings it this year, considering that they might have felt like fell a little short last year, falling in the second round. So we'll see, man. We'll see. It's going to be a lot to really think about, a lot in terms of just the implications for all of the teams and each conference. I'm excited to see, some of the maybe younger teams that do have, that are wanting to kind of prove something. I am looking maybe so more so like in the Eastern Conference, because that they're less, they're not going to be in direct competition with the Warriors, right? So I'm looking at teams in the Eastern side, maybe teams like Detroit. I guess you could throw Indiana there as well. Although they had, they did have a successful, pretty well established Eastern Conference one last year, just running up against the juggernaut Celtics. But, I think they could definitely be an interesting team to keep an eye on. And Atlanta's just a weird team, right? After the trade deadline, it seemed like they were just like selling off, they sold off pieces, and they brought some more back, but it seemed like maybe maybe they're just kind of throwing the season away. But no, they're sort of keeping up with things, and I think they're definitely going to be in the play-in for sure, at the very least, considering where like Chicago and Philadelphia are in the standings. But they're interesting, man. There's still a lot of time for them to maybe make a move as well. But yeah, outside of basketball this week, when I've had some sort of free time to myself, I've actually been catching up on some anime. I and I don't remember if I talked about this, but I finally watched Akira, the '90s anime movie, the one that just like so many films and so many anime have like referenced, and it was cool. It was cool. I I thought the animation and like the colors and like the set pieces and everything were absolutely stunning and beautiful, and it's like it's so like the attention to detail and everything is so well done. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I my just kind of reading up on it a little bit. The manga that it was based on was, kind of like it's like I don't know I don't remember how many books are in the series, but it's like a shorter sort of extended series. But and I think, kind of based on that, it seems like there was some, they definitely had to cut some corners in terms of the storytelling, and you could definitely sort of feel with the pacing that they're really trying to like focus on like the sort of the main plot points and everything. And it's definitely difficult to like adapt a longer series. I mean, I don't think it's super long, right? But like a whole series into like a movie is difficult to adapt, right? In any situation. And so I could definitely see, some storylines not being fully developed, some characters not really getting getting the arcs that were showcased in the manga. So I think some of it was maybe, you maybe want like a little bit more from that, right? But the general gist and the vibe and just like the ideas that were presented, I think I got for the most part, right? I thought it was pretty, I do like how they sort of introduced the movie with kind of, they're showing just sort of like the cityscapes and just the frantic nature of this world and the environments and everything. Also just kind of on the backdrop of like this political kind of struggle and class sort of warfare, right? You got like people like protesting in the streets and stuff, and I thought it was like a nice sort of a nice way to set the stage for the story and everything that kind of develops, and how we eventually kind of get to the point of where we do in the story. I think that I do like the characters for the most part. Like obviously they aren't given enough to really lend yourself to really like connect with them, but I think I think it does like a decent job for what it's able to do in kind of that runtime, to get a sense of like what you know what the characters, what their pasts were like and what they've been through, and how they kind of got to this point and why they were maybe influenced in a certain way, and why they sort of act in the way they do. Like, you kind of understand that in some instances. I do think that I think like maybe later on in the movie, is where it sort of maybe loses a bit of direction in terms of like the plot clarity. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it starts to get a little convoluted at the end, right? I think you can definitely piece things together and be like, okay, I kind of understand what's sort of happening, right? But I wish that, I obviously wish that there was maybe a little bit more done. I think this could have been better suited for like a full anime series, right? Just to like flesh out the characters and the world a little bit more, give more background on some of the characters, because I think that would have lended itself to giving a lot more weight to the scenes, some of the more intense scenes in the movie, yeah, because it's like, especially towards like in the third act, you're like, why are these characters like here? You know what I mean? It's like, how do they know that they were gonna be like, they definitely jumped around a little bit just to get to like kind of the climax of the movie, right? And it wasn't, I feel like for like plot convenience, they sort of set it up in a certain way to where characters had to be where they should be for in order for things to kind of move forward, right? And I think it could have been a lot more smoother, if maybe given a bit more time and some more space to lead up to that point. But I think they did the best that they could. A really cool movie. I definitely understand like the inspiration, that other films and other art has had from this. Like, it's just so well realized. It's very cool, and yeah, I'm glad that I finally watched it, because I think it's good to kind of get like a bit of a perspective and background on kind of where things sort of developed in terms of anime, and how we sort of got to where we currently are and everything, right? A little look back in history. And speaking of 90s anime, I was just kind of, I watched that, and I was just like, you know what? While we're here, let's get into Neon Evangelion. Like, let's just get into it, man. It's been too long. I've had it on like the my quote unquote backlog for quite some time now, and I'm like, you know what? Let's just start watching it, and I'm glad that I have. It's great. I'm about like 6-ish episodes in, and I really enjoy it. I think it is so interesting in terms of just like the themes that it explores. Just the art is beautiful. Like, I love just like the silhouette of like the characters with the backdrop, the beautiful like backdrop of, whether it's like the sunset or maybe some other environment in the background. It's like so, just like the contrast is like so well done. There's just some beautiful, just like, still images that you can really just like look at and just appreciate. Just like from an artistic stance itself, it's super well done. But like the storytelling as well, I think is really fascinating, and it's right up my alley in terms of just like what kind of storytelling I enjoy, in whether it's in movies or video games or anime and that kind of thing. Like, this is like right there. It immediately sort of presents this conflict between father and son, the son of the main character of Shinji, and how he has just this very fractured, almost like non-existent relationship with his father, and how he's sort of like kind of coming to terms with it and everything, and how he's like dealing with that. there's also just the fact that, like, it seems like there's just, and it was sort of briefly mentioned in a conversation that, I don't know, it's sort of implied that maybe his mom is no longer in his life, or she died or something, but yeah, it's like it is sort of, you can definitely tell there's like maybe, like a Freudian kind of, sense going on there, a Freudian kind of philosophy going on there. And something that it's kind of trying to explore in terms of, the relationship between, son and father and parenthood and that kind of thing, and, the issues that sort of lie there and everything. But I'm very, I'm super intrigued with kind of the direction it's going. Obviously, there's a lot of like Christ, Christian themes as well. Like all of this is just like I love like like Xenoblade and all that stuff, right? Like that, all that explores, all those kinds of concepts and themes as well, and that very much applies to here. And I think you can argue that those things, the things, the fiction that I love and I enjoy so much is heavily influenced by something like Evangelion, and I can absolutely see the inspiration there. I'm very excited and interested to kind of delve into it further. There's some like, you got some psychological stuff going on there with, how Shinji is dealing with, having to kind of, having to sort of use the mech. There's definitely some commentary regarding how governments and how, it's just power structures, how they sort of employ the youth to fight their wars and everything like that. There's a lot of stuff going on here, and I feel that I'm just kind of scratching the surface, and I'm excited, man. I'm really interested in kind of getting into it further as the series go, and I also have to like kind of figure out, maybe it's not that complicated, but I know that there's like a few movies with Evangelion as well. I'm curious kind of like what the order of that is going to be. So I will need to kind of look into, what order I should be watching. I know that I think I'm okay starting off with the series itself, but yeah, I'm curious to see kind of like what order I should be watching the movies following up the series is. But yeah, really good stuff. All the good stuff, all the storytelling elements that I enjoy in fiction, the things that it explores, it's all good stuff. And you got some cool mech battles and, some beautiful animations and all that stuff. So it's good, man. I'm really liking it so far. Anyways, I think that's gonna do for this week. I do want to try. I do want to preserve my voice, kind of before I kind of lose it even further. I'll talk more next week, just in regards to kind of my impressions of All-Star Weekend, if I do end up tuning into the events and that kind of thing. Talk about my expectations of the rest of the season as well. And I don't know, there's been some more rumors, some more hints regarding there possibly being a Nintendo Direct next week, which which would be nice. Would be a nice surprise. I'm not putting too much stock into it, but it would be nice to see that, just to kind of keep things afloat before, just sort of waiting for the next couple of months for the Switch 2 Direct and blowout and everything. So yeah, hopefully there's one that comes up either this week or next week. It would be nice to kind of see that. But yeah, until next week, until then, that's going to do it for this week's episode. This has been Save the Semantics, signing off.